Welcome. This is Shawn Dell Joyce. First, I am positioning where I'm going to be painting and then working in some of the underpainting in the background. I'm using a lot of wine color, rust, some white, some yellow, and this is because it's easier to blend into pastel. It's sort of like fat over lean with oil paint. If you have something down on the canvas, it makes it easier to work. I'm actually working on an ampersand pastel board. Here's two of the violets I'm using. One is warmer, one is cooler. I'm blocking in with both of them. I often choose warmer and cooler versions. This is with the whole background blocked in with a beautiful blue violet. Now I got my brushes involved, my fingers or my brushes, and I'm gently working that pastel down into the tooth of the board. As I do this, it frees up the tooth to accept more pastel and it softens the edges. I want the clouds to be pushed back, as in very dark edged. So I'm pushing it with my fingers down into the tooth. I'm blending it. I'm breaking the little pigment cells and combining them together, just the same as you would be mixing paint on a palette and then applying it. I'm very careful with my fingers. I don't use any blending tools other than my fingers. And sometimes I take pastel from one area and work it on top of another area. So you don't actually have to use the stick to apply pastel. You can use your fingers and take it from one place and move it. Once I have a good amount of the background softened, you can start to see some of the shapes of the dark in the sky and the lightning against it. So now I'm going to add some of the rain effects. This is an iridescent pastel. It's close to my photo, so I'm going to use it to put a little shimmer on the clouds and to add some rain coming down in the lower left corner. Here I'm just putting a little texture, an edge on some of the lost edges in the clouds. And you can see how already that gives them so much more dimension. I lightly touch it with my finger, blend just a bit here and there. I don't want to lose the shape of it, but I do want to make sure it's a soft edge up in the sky. There should be no architectural or hard edges in the sky. They should always be soft. Now I'm using the whole side of the pastel and scumbling the rain in sheets like it's pouring from the cloud. I scumble because I want to get the motion of the pastel. Here I'm going a little harder. And now you get this feel of rain just pouring from the sky. I'm softening the edges of it so that the rain appears to emanate from the clouds and the sky lightens around the lightning strike. This has set the stage very well for the lightning strike. So now I'm going to come in, soften a few places with my fingers. I'm using a slightly warmer violet up in the sky. I'm shaping those clouds so that they're not too close or precise, and dividing them up with some sky holes. This gives interesting texture in the sky, creates a lot of beautiful differentiation between those clouds. And now I've got many colors up in the sky. Look at those blues and violets. This is a complementary palette painting. It's yellow purple, so you're seeing blue violet, red violet, true yellow, yellow orange, which I'm holding in my hand now, which is a warmer version of yellow, and yellow green, which will come when I start to put in some of the landscape. So that beautiful yellow orange color is a warm color up against the clouds. So I'm using it to create some drama in the sky. See how that warm color really pops against the cools of the blues that are already up there. It's good to have a pop color like that. And when you're working with a complementary palette, you cannot help but pop the color since the complements react to each other. Now I'm setting the stage for the lightning strike using a soft white pastel. This one is a titanium white, has a little bit of yellow in it. Now I'm making the only straight line in the whole composition, which is the horizon line. I want it to be lit up by that lightning. Using a little pink color as an underpainting for some of those lightning strikes, and now the soft white. And I'm twisting and curving that pastel in my hand as I paint the lightning strike. When you twist it, you get a broken line that looks very reminiscent of lightning. I will add to that with a new pastel, which is very hard, and twist and turn it so I get more hair-like lightning strikes coming off of the bigger strikes. This gives me more interesting texture. It looks more realistic. I want to make sure that the very tips of the lightning strike don't just end abruptly in the sky. So I'm going to soften them with a little bit of that yellow-orange. Here I'm making sure the cloud is overlapping the lightning. And now I'm softening the edges of those lightning strikes, softening them with a light violet and the yellow-orange in places. You may have to touch it with your finger to knock it back a little so it looks like it's part of the sky and not separate. Now we have a very strong, bold lightning strike. So you can see some really intense color. Now for the pop colors. This is the yellow-orange, and I'm using that yellow-orange to create some interesting drama in the ground. I'm warming up the grass in the field and darkening the tree line on the horizon. I want those dark trees to overlap the sky, so that pushes the sky back behind the trees and creates that illusion of perspective and depth. I also don't want these tree line, I don't want it to be too perfect. Those trees shouldn't look like little soldiers standing at attention. Instead, they should be very organic in shape, some taller, some smaller. I'm also putting one perspective line coming in at an angle and going out at an angle to show the base of the tree. Now these dark lines will help draw the viewer towards the tree. This shows rows that are flattened against the ground. Now I'm lifting up the pastel with a stiff paintbrush, and this allows me to open up the tooth on my ampersand pastel board and add more pastel in. So I'm starting with the big main shape of the tree. This is the strong dark trunk, and then pulling dark branches up into the sky, pulling them, and then making softer, smaller branches with a new pastel. I did the same thing here as I did with the lightning, and it creates a nice duality in the painting. So you have the hard edges of the tree and the tree branches overlapping the soft edges up in the cloud, and the branches themselves mimic the branches of lightning. So it's a nice bit of repetition. Continuing with those fine branches. The fine branches will take some time, so I'm making sure I have the thickness in first and then put in the fine branches. I had done a previous study of the same painting, so I refer back to that sometimes when looking. With the foliage, I'm massing it in with a giant pastel that's used for sidewalk chalk. This is like a gray-green color. I use it on its edge to create little clumps of leaves and use it on its side to create big masses of leaves. This helps make some soft edges up in the tree. It also helps to mimic the cloud. Now I have some beautiful foliage. I'm coming in with some of the sky color and opening up some sky holes in the canopy of the tree, and I'm using that yellow-orange color to highlight some of the branches that would be getting some light reflecting from the lightning strike. So this helps to give dimension to the canopy of the tree. It opens up the canopy, creates some light effects and texture on the bark of the main part of the tree, and gives some shape to those branches. I like to pull the same color throughout the whole composition just to create color harmony. So I have that yellow orange in other places, putting it up in the tree, and then I'll put some into the grasses too, and just make some stiff linear strokes with the side of that pastel to give the illusion of tall, dry autumn grasses. And I'm probably going to go over those grasses with several colors. Each time I have a color in my hand, I ask myself, where else can I use it? And I use it in several places so that there's a sense of color harmony to the whole composition. Now I'm resolving some of the tree branches, making some of the leaves look a little more defined, putting in some thinner branches. You can see I'm using a piece of charcoal. Charcoal shows up very light on pastel, so it reads as a silvery color up in the tree canopy. I'm not putting a whole lot of detail. It looks like it from a distance, but it's really texture, and the texture reads as detail. Just having a different type of mark gives you that texture. There's some reflected light up in the tree. And now I'm going to put in a few more colors in those grasses, lots of worms. Bring them up in the tree so that the color of the grass reflects up into the canopy of the tree. The tree reflects down, casts a shadow down onto the grasses. Everything works together in nature, so I try to paint it that way. I'm using the very edge of a golden pastel, a yellow pastel, to create some scumbled texture in the grasses. This is the lightest color. I used it strong right up against the horizon so that the field looks lit up in the distance. Now I'm just using it to create some texture in grasses. And then, of course, bringing it in for some intense highlights in that tree. If you want to paint along with me, I have live classes every Wednesday night. Join me. Thank you.